We're now in the ink and paint department, where the paint is applied to the cells. I think it's here, for many of our guests, where the artwork really comes alive.
I'd like to introduce you to Fran Kirsten, whose department is responsible for transforming the pencil animation drawings into the final color cells that will eventually make it onto the screen.
We currently have 20 people in the ink and paint department, which includes Xerox camera. All of these people have some artistic background. Our primary job is to supply all of the artwork that the camera department will need to shoot the final film. The type of work we do involves developing the color models, which determine what colors to mix and paint for each scene. Then the painting of all the character cells. It also includes any special effects like shadows, mattes, airbrush or dry brush, and the final checking process, which makes sure everything is accounted for before being sent to the camera department. But before we can paint a cell, the character has to be transferred to an acetate called a cell. And that takes place here in the Xerox department.
This is the front platinum room, where each drawing is placed on the platinum, and it's focused into the camera room. Now, let me show you the dark room. Come on, follow me. In order for me to explain how this camera functions, I do have to have the lights off. Okay, from this box, I have 8 plates, which I need to feed through this charging machine. I now take the plate and I press the button, put it onto the camera platen, turn this thing, I'm not sure what this does. Then lock it down with this air. The plate is now locked into place. Close the platen, shut it closed and lock it. Press this button down here, which is right here, and it triggers the lens to open up. Once the image is on the plate, I send it out to the transfer room.
The plate with the image comes out on a conveyor belt into the transfer room. The first thing we do is wipe off any excess toner, being careful not to damage the image itself. Then the plate, along with a blank cell, are placed together on the registration pegs onto the transfer table. There, an electric charge transfers the image from the plate to the cell. But the image is not permanent until we treat the cell with a chemical vapor on the fuser table. Now the image is fused to the cell. Once all of the cells have been transferred, the entire scene will then go to the Xerox check area. There they are checked one by one, comparing the image on the cell to the original pencil drawing. We want to make sure the position of the image on the cell or registration is correct and that the entire image has transferred intact. Any lines that need to be done in a color other than the Xerox line are hand-inked at the Xerox check phase of production. Now that the scene is ready to be painted, it will be distributed to as many as 11 painters. Each of them will have a color model, which indicates what the different colors are and in what area they are to be painted. Just like the animators and their cleanup artists have model sheets as a guide to how the characters should be drawn, the painters have color models to guide how the cells should be painted. The color models usually will be done before a scene reaches ink and paint. Here we have a color model, and what we do, we get with the art director and the background artist to make sure that we can see Mom and she doesn't blend right in with the background.
We want to make sure that these colors these are getting a little close here. We have to be careful.
We can sometimes make 10 models and they're still not happy, but we go back and eventually we get that.
So you stay here and watch baby Herman.
No, not that! Anything but that!
Once we determine our color models, we mix all of the paint for the entire scene, making sure we mix enough so we don't run out of paint in the middle of the scene. This is where we mix our paints here. As you can see, we have Mum's nail polish color. And we have the glove shadow. He does look quite simple, but he has 13, 14 colors on here.
Okay, anything you say, Mama dearest. Why, you know me.
For instance, a scene in Roller Coaster had the darts. There were 75 colors just on the darts alone.
Poke yourself, baby!
All of the artists working with cells wear gloves to keep off fingerprints and any smudging. We paint in a production line process, painting the dark colors first and then building up the lighter colors. We have just finished a 7-minute film, Roller Coaster Rabbit, which approximately had 23,000 cells. Roger was quite difficult. He had 14 colors. Most people could average about 16 cells a day. Although painting looks easy, it takes time to get consistent quality from an artist.
Accuracy is very important, mainly because our characters are so detailed. Because it's a different technique as opposed to, brushing strokes or doing, fine detail. This is applied by a floating process, so actually you want to kind of puddle it on the cell, which is very different.
Before the artwork leaves the ink and paint department, there is one last responsibility called the final check area. Each piece of art, sometimes as many as a dozen for one frame of film, is carefully reviewed. We inventory all of the art to make sure it's all there and to catch any quality control problem that may have crept in.
Basically what I'm doing is looking for any problems. I use the same exposure sheet the cameraman will use, because what I'm doing is a dry run of camera, how the camera will actually see it. Scene 25 from Roller Coaster Rabbit's a good example. There are 7 levels in this scene. The background always goes down first. The first level that goes down is a level of shadows for the props. They look black on here, but the camera shoots them at a percentage. These are the props that the shadows go to. And then, on top of that, there's another level of props that animate separately from the first level. The next thing is the character shadow. And then his body goes down without a head on it, because his body's not moving. And then his head goes down. I have to make sure his head sits on his body just right. Now, his head's on a separate level here because that's the only thing that's moving. This is the last level. It's the guns that are getting ready to shoot at him.
We like everybody to be multi-talented because it is very important that it's teamwork here. And when we get very, very busy and down to the crunch, that everybody can help each other.